First, it's a biblical allusion, evoking apocalyptic imagery from the book of Revelation. This positions the inspector as a prophetic figure, warning of divine judgment for those who fail to take responsibility. It also foreshadows the horrors of both world wars, which occurred after the play's 1912 setting, but were fresh in the audience's minds in 1945. The Polysyndeton, the repetition of and, creates a relentless, overwhelming effect, emphasizing that suffering is continuous and inescapable. The tricolon structure of fire, blood, and anguish gives the speech rhythm and power, making the warning even more dramatic. Each word holds symbolic weight. Fire represents destruction, blood symbolizes death and violence, and anguish conveys deep emotional suffering. This reinforces the play's themes of social responsibility and interconnectedness. If people do not learn from their mistakes, society will collapse under its own selfishness. Priestley, having served in World War I, was deeply concerned about social injustice. The line not only foreshadows war, but also acts as a metaphor for the consequences of greed and inequality. The inspector's warning suggests that if people like the Birlings continue to exploit others, they will face severe repercussions, perhaps not through war, but through social unrest and suffering. The phrase fire and blood and anguish from an inspector calls carries deep religious and apocalyptic significance, particularly when linked to the book of Revelation. In the Bible, Revelation describes the end of the world, where sinners face divine judgment and catastrophic destruction. The imagery of fire and blood is frequently used to symbolize God's wrath, war, and ultimate punishment. The inspector's warning mirrors this, implying that if society does not change, it will face unavoidable suffering and consequences. Fire is often associated with hell and damnation, representing eternal punishment for the wicked. This suggests that those who refuse to accept responsibility, like the Birlings, are doomed to face moral and spiritual reckoning. Blood, meanwhile, signifies violence and sacrifice, linking to war but also to biblical notions of atonement. In Revelation, blood is poured out upon the earth as a form of divine retribution, much like the suffering the inspector predicts. Anguish, the final part of the tricolon, reinforces the inescapable suffering awaiting those who ignore the inspector's lesson. It evokes the torment described in hell, where sinners are left to suffer eternally for their wrongdoings. The inspector, as a prophetic figure, warns the Birlings that unless they change, they will be condemned, societally, morally, and spiritually, much like those doomed in the book of Revelation.